Hello again, beautiful beings, and welcome to my live Q&A video every Sunday morning. I just want to mention that I'm doing something new today, which is I have Facebook on, the teachers page, the old membership page, and then I've got YouTube on, which unfortunately YouTube doesn't allow you to do membership only live videos. So this is public to everyone, but only members are allowed to comment in the live Q&A video. So hello all my beautiful members. Thank you for being a member. And then hello everyone else tuning in. And then hello all of the teachers, the OG members of the membership page on Facebook. Thank you for being here. By the end of this month, we will switch everyone over from Facebook to YouTube. So I'm just kind of getting set up with this kind of dynamic. I have a ton of really great questions that I've already received, and then I would love to hear from my members on YouTube as well about what kind of questions, so start thinking about it, what kind of questions do you have regarding psychic abilities? Okay, so what I used to do for my old membership page was I would print out all of their questions, all of your questions, and I would read them off. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do a mix of reading the questions and also taking them live on YouTube from my members. And then everyone else on YouTube, even though you're not a member, you can really enjoy the content because it's going to be an exciting video. And I also want to mention too that I'm a little bit hungover today. I am not a drinker at all. And last night we went to an art gallery, which was amazing, and I had 2 glasses of wine, and I woke up a little bit rough. So if you're like, EA's hurting, I am hurting. I am this morning, just a little bit. Okay, so lots of good questions. It will not hurt the information, though. That's the beautiful thing. Okay, first question here from Paulina on the Facebook membership page. Super great question, actually. Okay. In order to unlock psychic abilities, we need to quiet our mind and listen. Awesome. Seems like you've been listening. Thank you, Paulina. How to define your thoughts from channeled or telepathic messages, your imagination from astral traveling. Really great question. This is like the question when we're talking about psychic abilities, right? Once again, how do we define our thoughts from channeled or telepathic messages, your imagination from astral traveling? Okay, I'm gonna give you this kind of like the short of the long answer because there's a lot of information in how to differentiate between the different streams of thought in your mind. It's really quite a big question. The first question that I'm gonna answer is how to differentiate your imagination from astral traveling. This is a tough one. I want to let you know that your imagination, in a lot of ways, is astral traveling. Okay? Hello. Hi. Thank you all, teachers, for being here. Love that. And the members, that's great. So, yeah, how to differentiate your imagination from astral traveling. Super tough. So, ultimately, your imagination is astral traveling because when you think thoughts, you're actually projecting them into the astral world. You're projecting them into a 5th dimensional frequency. Okay, you're projecting them into the ethers. So your imagination is manifesting, creating something. Your imagination is just your thoughts. So astral traveling in particular is, I would say, it's more of an experience in this physical space-time universe rather than an experience in the weird imagination realm. So in your imagination, you can have dreams. And if you think about your dreams, I mean, they're kind of weird. They're kind of funky. That's your imagination space. You can really think up or go anywhere in that imagination realm. And then there's different dream dimensions that you can go into. So there's a lot going on there. Astral traveling is like, I'm going to go astral travel to the next room in this apartment or this condo, right? I'm going to go astral travel down the street to Hollywood or whatever, right? Like astral traveling is basically going somewhere still within the confines of physical space, but you're not confined by time in a way. I don't know, it's kind of weird. But also you can go to, say, Mars, or you can go to the moon and you can astral travel there, but you're still astral traveling within the confines of linear space. Does that make sense? Your imagination is basically dream space. You can go anywhere, you can see anything, you can do anything within your imagination realm. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Now, how to define your thoughts from channeled thoughts or telepathic thoughts? Okay, so this is a little bit trickier. Ultimately, I'm going to clump channeled thoughts and telepathic thoughts for a second, and I'm going to talk about how to differentiate external thoughts, and we're going to clump the external thoughts, once again, into the channeled and the telepathic from your own ego thoughts. That's the most important one. So I'm switching up your question a little bit, okay? Hi, all of the new members on YouTube. Thank you for being here. And once again, thank you to all the OG members on Facebook. Okay, so how to differentiate your human thoughts, your ego mind thoughts, from external thoughts, which are channeled or telepathic thoughts. I'm going to kind of relay this in probably the simplest way I know how, but it's also important for you to know this when tapping into your psychic abilities. Okay, so ultimately, your ego thoughts, your human thoughts, will always come from somewhere. Your external thoughts, okay, your external thoughts will pop in. Someone else's telepathic thought will pop into your mind. Okay, your ego thoughts will come from somewhere. So I'll give you a good example. I always use this example, but I'm going to use it again. Okay, so you're walking around and it's in the middle of the summer and it's a really hot day. And you're like thinking to yourself, you're like, oh, I'm so hot right now. What could I use to cool me down? You know what? Some ice cream sounds really good. Let's go for some ice cream. Boom. There's the thought of ice cream. Maybe you weren't conscious of how you got to that thought of ice cream, but the thought of ice cream popped into your mind. If you backtrack that thought of ice cream, if you backtrack that thought, you're like, oh, well, I got to the thought of ice cream because I was thinking about cooling myself down because of the heat. So logically, linearly, that thought makes sense. It's coming from you. All right, likewise, if you're in a grocery store and you're putzing around, you've got your little grocery cart or whatever, okay, and you're in like the spices aisle, and all of a sudden you're thinking about what spice you need for this dinner tonight. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, the thought of ice cream pops into your mind. And then you think to yourself, well, where did that thought come from? You know, can you logically deduce back where that thought originated from? Was that you who originally thought that? No, absolutely not. It was probably some guy walking past you, walking to the ice cream aisle saying, I really want ice cream. And because you're just an open soul, you received that message. It's very similar to, what is it called? Dreaming, right? So if you wake up in a dream, which basically means you're having a lucid dream, if you wake up in a dream and you have a lucid dream and you're like, holy shit, how did I get here? I'm like literally flying around, or I'm on a roof, or I'm talking to this weird creature or whatever in your dream. If you wake up in your dream, can you think back to how you got to that place? Even if it was a super normal dream of like, hey, you're back in your old high school. How did you get there? Did you drive? Did you walk? Where did you come from? In your dream, understanding that it's a dream, you don't know how you got there. And that's an immediate indication that you're dreaming. If you ask me, how did I get here today? Well, I groggily rolled out of bed. I slumped over to the bathroom and then I slumped over here. And that's how I got here, right? I can logically deduce how I got here, so I know this is reality, or at least the reality that we're talking about. Okay, so it's very similar to that. So an external thought, either a channeled message or a telepathic thought, pops into your mind. It doesn't come from anywhere. It just comes in. And sometimes you can ask for it. Sometimes you can pull it in, for sure. But mostly your own ego thoughts versus external thoughts is the most important way of starting your psychic ability journey. You need to know if they are your own thoughts. Am I going to get married in the next 5 years? You need to realize, is it my own thought of, yep, it's going to happen. It's going to happen tomorrow. Is that your ego just saying that? Or is that a divine message, right? Is that coming from somewhere? How do you differentiate? Okay, so it's a really good skill to work on. All right, let's see what else we have here. And I'm going to go to YouTube too for a couple of questions. Once again, guys, this video is public to everyone on YouTube, but only my members can comment. Not every YouTube video is going to be like this, but every Q&A Sunday video is going to be like this. And eventually I'm not going to have this sheet at all, and I'm just going to go right to YouTube and all my members for all of your questions about whatever the topic is that week. All right, so pretty cool. And I'll get to your questions in a little bit. Okay. Okay, so another question here. When I channel, I see some images. When I try and focus on what I saw, the images disappear. Even if I caught the image, I struggle to interpret it. So in order to see clear, I need to do more practice. Am I right? But how do I translate the images? Okay, so this is really good. This is very similar to lucid dreaming. When I started lucid dreaming back when I was 18, so this was like 2010, I guess, somewhere around there. So when I started doing lucid dreaming, I would wake up, right? So that's what it's called. You wake up in your dream and then you realize you're dreaming, then you can do anything. But the second that I woke up in my dream, the dream started collapsing and I couldn't hang on to it. So you're so right, Paulina. It just takes more focus on the images. Now, determining what the images mean is more of a channeled ability. So it's like, so you finally get an image in your psychic quest, right? You're sitting down, you're in meditation, you're listening, you're concentrating, you're asking for information. You're like, okay, all right, spirit guides, all right, higher self, all right, universe, if you were to sum up my life right now in one image, what would it be? And all of a sudden you get this ship, okay, and this, not a spaceship, but an actual ship, like a boat, in the ocean, and all of a sudden the boat hits something and it sinks. And you're like, oh my God, what's happening? I just want to say, the more reaction you have to the psychic messages and the images that you're getting, the more you're likely to collapse that image, okay? So the more you're in reaction about that, the more you're going to collapse it. So you have to be super neutral and super objective. And that's why it is like literally 10 times easier to get information for other people than it is to get information for you. Why? Because you have so much attachment around what the expected outcome should be or what you want it to be rather than just what is. Okay? Does that make sense? So so interpreting the image, honestly, all it comes down to is asking more questions. So you ask the question, what is my life like right now? You see the boat, it hits something and it sinks. You don't freak out because you're maintaining the objectiveness. Then what? Then the next step for you is, okay, so why am I seeing that image? What's going on here? Okay? When you ask another question, guess what? You get another answer. So at first in my, now I don't really have to ask the questions, it all just kind of comes through. But first, when I was practicing my psychic abilities and the ability to channel, it was just asking question after question after question. And I learned that trying to obtain knowledge and information, all it comes down to is asking the right question. And if you think about it, this is so exciting, if you think about Google, right? I mean, the whole universal search engine of this world, and all of the knowledge in this world, if you think about Google, if you want to know something in Google, it's funny, say for example, you want a cute short haircut, right? And you type in short haircut. What are you going to get? You're going to get a lot of things. So you have to ask the right question. What kind of color is your hair? What kind of texture is your hair? Cute, short, blonde, curly, whatever haircut. The more specific you are about the questions that you ask, the more specific responses that you get. And that works the exact same with universal source. So having your psychic abilities and the ability to channel all comes down to asking the right questions. That's really all it is. So those are a good couple of questions there, Paulina. Thank you. Okay. We've got a question here from one of the members, Alexander. What is the coolest psychic ability in your opinion? Cool. Can you tell a story of an astral travel experience that was really cool and exciting for you, and perhaps even out of the norm of an experienced psychic such as yourself? Cool. I have a lot of really cool astral traveling experiences. I have two that I'll relay to you just quickly. And then the coolest psychic ability, and I don't know if I would call this a psychic ability or an extrasensory ability, but I would say ultimately, what would it be? Hold on. Yeah, okay. The coolest psychic ability, and one that I have not even mastered or come close to even doing in this lifetime. I've dabbled a little bit, which would be telekinesis. Oh my goodness. If I'm going to master anything in this lifetime, I want to levitate. I want to move shit with my mind. I want to be able to pick up my phone with my mind and like turn it into a ball of metal. Like that's what I want. You know what I mean? Anyway, that is by far the coolest psychic ability, in my opinion, though. Okay, so the coolest astral traveling experience that I've had, and I believe I've relayed both of these astral traveling experiences publicly, so if you watch all of my videos, you probably know both of these. If you don't watch all of my videos, then these are probably new to you. Okay, so this is actually the first time I ever astral traveled in my life. It was the coolest moment ever. So I think I was probably around 18, 19, and I was living in a student house, and I was reading a bunch of information on how to astral travel, what are the techniques, how to get out of your body, those kind of things. And what they say is, if you astral travel to a room in your house that's familiar to you, then it's easier, I don't know, I guess because you're familiar with the room, it's easier than just trying to go somewhere or anywhere. And I guess you can build a trust within yourself too. You're like, oh my goodness, I'm in my kitchen right now, but I'm chilling in my bedroom, right? Something like that. Okay, so I did this. I was like 18, 19 in this student house in university, and I'm laying in my bed, and I'm kind of in that liminal space between awake and asleep. I'm just about to fall asleep, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to practice astral traveling. And that's kind of the best time to practice it, is in that liminal place, as long as you're awake enough to recognize where you're going and what you're doing. And it's because you're relaxed, right? You have to be in a very relaxed state in order to astral travel. And I'll also say that my background in past life regression therapy really immensely helped. You know, how I used to put others into a hypnosis or a trance-like state is what I would do to myself when doing things like past life regression on myself, or astral traveling, or psychic channeling. So I was able to literally put myself into a relaxed trance state super easily. Okay, so I was laying in bed, I was about to fall asleep, and I get out of my body. I don't know, it just happens. Out of my body, I travel up. So here I am, like, I'm laying in bed, my eyes are closed, I'm out of my body, I see my, like, white astral body form. It's got a cord that's connected to my physical body. And so it travels out of me. So I'm seeing this. And then I'm also experiencing, no, my eyes are closed. I'm now in the astral body, get out of my body. I'm like floating up. I don't even go to the next room. I float up over my body. And so now I'm like at the top of my ceiling looking down on my room. And I'm like, ooh, this is a cool angle. Like I really thought it was awesome. It was like, ooh, this is a cool angle. And then I'm like, in my astral state, I'm like, I wonder if I can interact with my human body. So weird. So I literally like float down and I kiss the side of my physical human body cheek. I kiss my own cheek, right? It's so weird. And I don't know, I guess I just did that intuitively. And I felt it, like in my physical body, I literally, it kind of felt like a cold, like almost like a ghost kissing you. Like that's what it felt like. I obviously didn't feel, a physical kiss, but it was like a cold wind, not even a wind, but just a cold spot on my cheek. And so like I open my eyes and I freak out. I'm like, oh my God, that was amazing. And that was my first ever astral travel experience. My other like more recent astral travel experience that was kind of cool was I went and I traveled to an underground base in Antarctica. And what they have so I've been to a lot of military bases. What they have at these military bases, it's really wild. They have psychic soldiers, like the American military bases have psychic soldiers. Actually, probably most of the world's military bases have these psychic soldiers. So basically what it is there's about three, well, probably multiple of them, but the one I saw in Antarctica was there was a small room with three men. They were all in military attire. They were physical, all in military attire, big guys too. And they're all sitting at these kind of like desks that were almost like little cubbies, like they had walls on either side. Didn't really matter because their eyes were closed and they were sitting and they were kind of slumped over like this, and it almost looked like they were sleeping. And anyway, and so these were the psychic soldiers who were astral traveling, not very far. They were astral traveling around the base, and they were patrolling the hallways of the base for anyone else who's astral traveling in. Now, mostly they put these walls up mostly because, or they have these psychic soldiers mostly for other governments' psychic soldiers. It's so wild. And like, I only know this because I've seen it, I don't read this stuff. So anyway, I'm pretty sure like the whole like Soviet Union, Russia, issue of the psychic soldiers and them battling each other that way, I'm pretty sure that they're trying to avoid Russian or other countries' psychic soldiers coming into their military bases. I think that's the reason. Anyhow, so I astral traveled into the base, the underground military base of Antarctica. First of all, it's huge. And second of all, it was very visceral. It was a very visceral experience for me. This happened only like 6 months ago. And it was so visceral because I've been really fine-tuning my astral traveling abilities. So now when I'm somewhere, when I astral travel somewhere, I can feel it. So when I went to the underground base in Antarctica, visceral means it feels very real, right? A visceral experience means it feels very physical, very real. And so I was in the base and I was in these like hallways underground, and I just felt like how cold and damp it was. Like it wasn't like, it was like almost like carved into, it was a nice hallway, but it wasn't finished. Like it felt just cold and damp and I don't know, just dreary. It was all kind of gray on the inside. And so I astral travel in and I'm like floating through all of these rooms and I'm seeing what they're doing there. And it's actually really fucked up. And if you want to see the whole experience, I'm pretty sure I did that astral travel with Antarctica live with Rex Bear and the Leak Project. And you can actually find that in my playlist, and it would be interviews with EA playlist on YouTube. And you should find the Antarctica one right there. It's really wild. Anyway, so they did a lot of, messed up things. They are doing a lot of messed up things in these bases. And I'm astral traveling through the hallway of this military base. And this giant, and he was a big guy, right? But a big astral body too. This giant astral form comes up to me and he looks at me and he's like, "What are you doing here? You're not meant to be here." And he goes like this. And he like pushes me out of the base, like pushes my astral body out of the base, and he just flings me like all the way, like just out, I'm like, what? And then what I had to do, because I had him follow me because he wanted to see, he basically wanted to see, who I was and why I was there, right? So this is what they do. They follow you back to your body to figure out, is she Russian? Is she Chinese? Does she have a military organization? Whatever. Anyway, so what I have to do is I pop in and out of places like all over the universe. So after he started following me, I popped out of Antarctica, I popped into Egypt, I popped out of Egypt, I popped into Peru, I popped out of Peru, I popped into America, I popped out of America into somewhere else, to the point where I basically had a good feeling that I lost him and I went back to my body safe and sound. But I had to develop that technique over time because I used to get followed quite a lot in my little creeping. I call astral traveling creeping. It's so funny. So anyway, moving on. Okay, so another question here. Is it true that when you wake up between 3 and 5 a.m., it's a spiritual awakening? Okay, so ultimately, this is how I understand waking up. This is how I understand waking up between 3 and 5. It is significant for sure. And especially the number 3:33 a.m. is really significant. But let's talk about waking up more often between 3 and 5 a.m. So ultimately, this is how I've understood it, but this could be many things. Like there's so many reasons why someone would wake up between 3 and 5 a.m. Okay? So many reasons why someone would do that. The main one that I've understood is this, okay? But once again, this is just one answer to many of them. Okay, so when we're going through an awakening or an ego death, right? Both of them are opposite ends of the extreme. Ego death is you're letting go of all of your old shit. Awakening is you're waking up to all the new shit. Okay, cool. Two opposite ends of the extreme. Okay, so when you're going through either opposite end of the extreme, what happens is at night, when your ego mind is shut off, you're able to unlock your DNA, you're able to process old energies, you're able to figure out new energies, you're really able to, open up in that way, okay? So there's a lot going on. So think about it this way, and this is the best way, and I came up with this like a couple of years ago, so it's such an easy way to understand it. When you're going through an awakening, you are upgrading your software. And eventually, because your software is upgraded, it actually ends up upgrading your hardware. Oh, hello, beautiful. Thank you for that super chat. Even though you're a member, that's really fantastic. I appreciate that. So you are upgrading and I just want to remind everyone on YouTube that this is open to the public, this Q&A every Sunday, but ultimately only my members can ask questions in the comment section. Not every YouTube video is going to be like this, but specifically every Sunday, this is a Q&A just for my membership page, and I'm leaving the questions open. Today I've got some questions from my Facebook page because I am in the middle of a transition, but eventually members only on YouTube questions in this video every Sunday. Weird. Okay. Every other video is going to be open for all of your questions and comments and things. Okay, so just keeping that in mind. Okay, so ultimately, when you wake up between 3 and 5 a.m., here's what happens. You're upgrading your software. Okay, so you're upgrading your vibration, you're upgrading your DNA, right? And eventually that upgrades the hardware, it upgrades your physical body as well. So what happens when, say, for example, you upgrade your software on your computer, you know how the fan starts going? And the fan is like just going because your computer is working so hard to upgrade the software, especially if you have an older computer. Okay, so that's basically what happens with the body. So at nighttime is when we upgrade our software the most. Obviously, in meditation, we can also upgrade and unlock our DNA and our software as well. So at nighttime, when we're upgrading our software within our bodies, within our souls and our vibration, our body ends up overheating. So one of the main symptoms of going through an awakening and upgrading your software in that way is waking up in a complete drenched sweat, right? Because your body is working so hard. And so when we wake up in between 3 and 5 a.m., it's actually like shutting down your computer in the oddest way possible. It's like stopping or pausing the software upgrade to give your mind and your vibration a break. It's the weirdest thing. But once again, Waking up between 3 and 5 is an indication that you're upgrading yourself in the nighttime, because you actually need to give yourself a break in between the night to just kind of chill on the upgrades. That's basically, the kind of way that I've explained it or understood it, right? And that's what's channeled and downloaded to me from years ago, because I used to wake up all the time in a hot sweat between 3 and 5. I'm like, what's happening? And ultimately, it was the fact that I needed to cool down, and just chill on the upgrades halfway through the nighttime. Okay, cool. Awesome. Good question, Lolly. All right. Let's see if we've got any good questions here on on YouTube for the memberships. Okay. Okay, great. No real questions here, but we've got tons of good questions here. Okay, so I thought this was a funny question from Sue. Do I have to go through hell again? If I went through it in early 2000s, am I to have another ego death? So let's talk about psychic abilities and ego death. I do have an incredibly amazing short video on ego death. It's like literally, I think, 1.5 minutes long, and it's under the category or the playlist of a moment of truth. If you haven't seen those videos, please watch them. I did spend a long time editing them. Hey, John. Oh, thank you so much. That's awesome. Okay, so yeah, so definitely watch that video on ego death. It pretty much explains everything in 1.5 minutes, so it's so good. But I'll kind of explain it here again. Within our given lifetime, we have, on average, about 10 ego deaths. Okay, so once again, in our given lifetime, we have, on average, about 10 ego deaths. Some people have more, some people have less. But yeah, you're going to have to go through an ego death after an ego death after an ego death. The point in time, and this is like years and years and years spaced apart, every ego death gets easier than your first one. And the reason why is because you're ready and you're willing to let go. As long as you're not attached, as long as you're willing and ready to let go, then you're good to go. Then you're not going to be as affected, okay? You will not have another ego death. I'm getting all like hot now. I don't know why. Okay. You will not have another ego death if you do not create an ego. Dun, dun, dun. That's the answer. If you never want to go through a complete collapse of your reality, don't attach yourself to one. Then you never have to collapse it. It is literally as simple as that. The whole feel good, be a dot, be in the present moment. If you live your life that way, with not making any choices through obligation or attachment or projection or expectation or fear or judgment or whatever, if you don't make any choices through all of that, and you're just being in the moment and you're listening to your intuition, then ultimately you never have to have an ego death. Okay? Okay, good. All right, let's see what else you guys have here. Okay, great. So Christine, do you ever doubt yourself when you started having experiences, and who helped you strengthen your abilities? Okay, so this is amazing. 100% all the time. Like, my waking life was a giant ball of questions. Okay, well, what's happening here? Why am I doing this? Why am I attracting that? Why did I break that thing? What's going on? What's my future? What's going on? And it was just always, like, I was always questioning everything. I would get messages and I would question them. It's kind of like at a certain point in time, you get messages and you get these, I'm getting chills. And you get these messages so intensely and so clearly, and you get validated by the person that you give the message to. And they're like, oh my God, how do you know that thing? And I'm like, I don't know how I know. And then you get validated and you're like, oh shit, I'm really onto something. Oh shit, this is actually channeled information, not my own information. And then you start to differentiate and discern, right? So it takes time, guys. It takes time. And you know what? Like, I was awakening back in 2010, right, was my kind of second big awakening, because when I was 16 was my first big one, and then I had a lot of psychic and extrasensory abilities as a kid. So it's kind of like I had them, I shut them down, I had them, I shut them down, I had them, and I really dove into them, you know. And so I doubted myself all the time, and then it was through a series of validation where I really started opening myself up again. And believing in myself, you know. And even today, like all of my clients, and I know I'm not taking any more clients, but my group sessions and my old clients who booked in the past, you know, I'm basically booked until the end of February right now. And you guys wonder why I don't take on clients. It's because I have so many of them all the time. Anyway, and so even now, all my sessions, like, you know, I've got people looking at me saying, Elizabeth, how do you do that? Like, how do you know that? And it just comes through. It's not my own information, obviously. So definitely. And then who helped me strengthen my abilities? I can't say that I ever had a mentor. I can't say that I ever had a teacher. I can't say that I ever looked up to someone, but I absolutely, without a doubt, will say that the universe presented me with the most beautiful, divine, random, synchronistic people in my life at the exact time that I needed them. So even though I always felt like I was my own teacher, I always had a support system of the right people at the right times telling me the right information or validating the information that I had to kind of keep me on my path. And if you trust yourself as the only source or the only teacher, you trust yourself as that, okay, then ultimately you will notice too that the universe will give back to you within synchronicities. If you give all your power away to one teacher, then you're limiting yourself to the capabilities that you have as your own teacher. And with that, everyone, I'm going to have to cut this short, even though I have a ton of other really great questions to get through. But I kind of messed up, and last night I got an order that was supposed to be delivered between 10 and 11, and I kind of had to message them saying, oh my goodness, please deliver this later, because I have this meeting or this video. I call it meetings, you know. I don't want to say I'm a YouTuber. This is so ridiculous. Okay, anyway guys, thank you all so much. Once again, thank you everyone on the teachers page on Facebook for being such a loyal and founding member of my membership group. Hopefully I will see all of you onto YouTube, and by the end of this month I will shut down Facebook completely and be on YouTube completely. And everyone on YouTube, I will have a public Q&A video just like this every single Sunday morning, and hopefully every Sunday morning, but I do have a lot of conferences and traveling coming up this year, so mostly every Sunday morning I will have a Q&A, and I will take all of just the membership page members questions on Sunday morning, but the video is open to everyone, which is kind of cool. So if you want to be a founding member, or you want to be a member of the membership page, and you want to comment and ask me questions every Sunday, it's $9.99 a month. It's kind of a no-brainer. So thank you everyone, all of the members, everyone else for watching this. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Keep up the high vibes. And I have a very special video for all of you tomorrow at 5:55. So I hope to see all of you there. Bye, Facebook. Bye, YouTube. See you all tomorrow.